Everyone leaves eventually. 9-year-old Noah Kong said it so quietly that the maid standing at the bottom of the staircase almost missed it, but 5 seconds later, the front door of the Kong estate slammed shut behind her, and the sound rolled through the marble foyer like a final answer. She was the 5th maid to leave in 2 months, the 5th grown woman to arrive believing she could handle the Korean Mafia boss's difficult son, and the 5th to walk away with tears in her eyes. Noah stood at the top of the sweeping staircase in gray pajamas, one hand resting against the polished railing, his expression strangely calm for a child who had just watched another person disappear from his life. On the floor beside him lay the pieces of an antique porcelain vase he had knocked from a table during an argument. No one moved. The housekeeper stared at the broken porcelain. 2 staff members avoided Noah's eyes. Then Ethan Kong stepped from the shadowed hallway. At 37, Ethan had built a reputation on control. His tailored black suit was immaculate, his dark hair neatly swept back, his face unreadable beneath the warm chandelier light. Powerful men lowered their voices when Ethan entered a room, yet his 9-year-old son simply looked at him and asked, "How long did that one last?" Ethan's jaw tightened. 3 weeks. Noah shrugged. Better than the last one. The room went silent. Ethan could command dozens of men with a sentence, settle disputes with a phone call, and make entire rooms wait for him to speak. But standing beneath that staircase, he had no idea what to say to his own child. Noah turned and disappeared down the hallway, his bedroom door clicking shut behind him. Only then did Mrs. Parker, the longtime housekeeper, speak. "Mr. Kong, we have a problem." Ethan looked toward the closed front door. "Call the agency." Mrs. Parker hesitated. "I already did." "Then request another maid." "There isn't another one." That made him turn. Mrs. Parker lowered her voice. Word had traveled among the agencies. Noah poured juice onto freshly cleaned rugs, hid personal belongings, locked staff out of rooms, and found exactly the right words to make adults lose patience. He never seemed satisfied until someone finally packed a bag. Ethan looked upstairs again. Someone will take the job. The next morning, beneath a pale Chicago sky, a yellow cab stopped outside the iron gates. A woman stepped out carrying one worn suitcase and a simple leather handbag. Danielle Brooks was 31, black, quietly composed, with natural curls pulled into a neat bun and the steady posture of someone who had learned long ago that dignity did not require permission. Mrs. Parker met her at the door and gave her one final warning. The last 5 women cried. Danielle glanced toward the enormous staircase. Somewhere above them, a floorboard creaked. Noah was listening. Danielle set down her suitcase. "Then I guess he's expecting number 6. From the balcony, Noah's small face appeared between the railings. Their eyes met. He expected fear. Danielle gave him none. And for the first time in months, Noah Kong was the one who looked away. Danielle learned within her first hour that Noah Kong never caused trouble without watching carefully to see what happened next. He was not loud for the sake of being loud, and he did not scatter chaos simply because he was bored. Every spilled drink, every misplaced object, every sharp remark came with the same quiet observation afterward. He watched faces. He measured reactions. He waited for patience to crack. That morning, Danielle had barely finished wiping the long walnut breakfast table when Noah walked into the dining room carrying a glass of orange juice. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, turning the polished silver warm against the white linen. Noah stopped beside the table and looked directly at her. Then he tipped the glass. Orange juice spread slowly across the spotless surface and dripped onto the floor. Danielle looked at the mess. Noah looked at Danielle. "You missed a spot," he said. Mrs. Parker froze near the doorway, already preparing to intervene. Danielle simply reached for a towel. "Looks like I did." She cleaned the table without another word. Noah frowned. 10 minutes later, Danielle discovered that the keys to the linen closet had disappeared from her cart. She searched the kitchen, the laundry room, and the hallway before noticing Noah sitting in an armchair with a book open across his knees. The silver keys rested beside him. "Looking for something?" he asked. Danielle walked over and held out her hand. "Yes. What if I do not give them back? Then the sheets do not get changed." Noah glanced upstairs. "My sheets." "Your sheets too." His eyes narrowed. "Dad will make you do it." Danielle remained still. "Your father hired me to take care of this house. He did not hire me to argue with a 9-year-old over keys." For several seconds, Noah said nothing. Then he pushed the keys across the table. Danielle picked them up and walked away. Behind her, the book in Noah's hands never turned another page. By lunchtime, he had tried mud from his sneakers on the clean entryway floor, crumbs across the couch, and a carefully aimed insult about Danielle's uniform looking cheap. Nothing worked. She cleaned what needed cleaning, corrected him when necessary, and refused to give him the anger he seemed determined to find. From the second-floor landing, Ethan watched without announcing himself. He had seen previous maids bargain with Noah, lecture him, complain about him, even attempt to win him over with candy and gifts. Danielle did none of those things. When Noah deliberately dropped his napkin beside his chair during lunch and stared at her, Danielle stopped beside him. "You dropped something." Noah waited. "Pick it up." His eyebrows lifted. No member of the household spoke to him that plainly. "You are the maid." Danielle's eyes remained steady. "And you are the person who dropped it." Silence settled over the dining room. Ethan expected an explosion. Instead, Noah looked down at the napkin for what seemed like forever. Then, slowly, he bent over and picked it up himself. Danielle continued toward the kitchen as though nothing remarkable had happened. Noah watched her leave, confusion replacing the smug little smile he had worn all morning. He had spent months learning exactly how to make people leave. Danielle Brooks had been inside the house for less than 6 hours, and already his old tricks were failing. That realization did not make Noah surrender. It made him curious enough to try something worse. By Danielle's fourth evening at the Kong estate, Noah had stopped testing whether she would become angry and started testing whether she could be embarrassed. Ethan was hosting a quiet dinner for 4 business associates in the formal dining room, where amber light from the chandelier shimmered across crystal glasses and polished silver. Danielle moved around the table with calm precision while Noah sat beside his father, unusually silent. One of Ethan's guests, a smiling man named Victor Hale, had noticed the tension between the boy and the new maid. "So this is the famous number 6, Victor said lightly when Danielle left the room. Noah looked at him. "What? Your new maid? I heard you sent 5 running." Victor chuckled as though it were harmless entertainment. "Think you can make this one cry too?" Ethan's expression hardened. "Victor." The warning in his voice ended the laughter, but Noah had already heard the challenge. 10 minutes later, Danielle returned carrying a tray of sparkling water. Noah watched her approach. His face showed almost nothing, but his fingers tightened around the edge of his napkin. As Danielle passed behind his chair, Noah suddenly pushed his chair backward into her path. Danielle tried to step around it, but the unexpected movement threw her balance off. The tray tilted. One crystal glass slipped free and shattered across the marble floor. Danielle reached instinctively for the edge of the table to steady herself, but a small piece of glass caught the side of her palm. She inhaled sharply. A thin red line appeared across her skin. Nothing serious, but enough to stop every conversation in the room. Ethan rose immediately. "Noah." His voice was colder than Danielle had heard it before. Noah did not look at his father. He stared at Danielle. This was the moment he understood. The moment the others had cried, shouted, or walked away. Danielle wrapped a clean napkin around her palm and looked at the frightened boy across the table. Noah's face had gone pale. The satisfaction he had expected to feel was nowhere to be found. Danielle stepped carefully around the broken glass. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Noah blinked. "What?" Your chair moved quickly. "Did you hurt yourself?" The room became perfectly still. Victor's smile disappeared. Ethan stared at Danielle as if she had spoken in a language no one else understood. Noah looked down at his hands. "No good." Danielle turned toward Mrs. Parker. "Could you bring me a broom, please? Nobody should step near the glass." Ethan moved around the table. "Leave it. Someone else will clean this." Then he looked at his son. "You and I are going upstairs." Noah finally raised his eyes, and Danielle saw something beneath the defiance. Fear. Not fear of punishment. Fear of what came after it. "Mr. Kong," Danielle said quietly. Ethan stopped. "Please give me a minute." He deliberately caused this. "I know. Then why are you protecting him?" Danielle looked at Noah, whose small shoulders had become rigid. "I am not protecting him from consequences. I am asking you not to confuse consequences with anger." Ethan froze mid-step. No employee had spoken to him that way in his own home. Danielle crouched several feet from Noah, keeping her injured hand wrapped. "You are going to help clean this after Mrs. Parker makes it safe. Then tomorrow, you are going to apologize." Noah swallowed. And if I do not? Danielle's eyes stayed steady. Then we try again the next day. Something changed in his face. He had expected rage. He had expected tears. Most of all, he had expected departure. Danielle gave him none of them. Later that night, long after the guests were gone, Danielle heard 3 quiet knocks against the staff room door. When she opened it, Noah stood alone in the hallway, staring at the bandage around her palm. His voice was barely audible. "Why did you ask if I was hurt?" Noah kept his eyes on Danielle's bandaged hand, as if the answer to his question might be hidden beneath the white gauze. The hallway was quiet now, washed in the soft gold of the night lights, and without an audience, the confidence he wore during the day seemed too large for him. Danielle leaned against the doorway. "Because when people try that hard to hurt somebody's feelings, I usually wonder what is hurting them first." Noah's eyes lifted sharply. "Nothing hurts me." "All right." She did not challenge him. That bothered him more than disbelief would have. He shifted his bare feet against the carpet. "Why did you not cry?" Danielle studied him for a moment. "Would you have wanted me to?" Noah opened his mouth, then closed it. His gaze dropped again. The others did. There was no pride in his voice now, only memory. Danielle lowered herself into the chair beside the doorway, leaving several feet between them. "And what happened after they cried?" Noah shrugged. "They left. Every one of them." "Yes." His answer came too quickly. Danielle noticed. "And you knew they would leave?" Noah's jaw tightened. "Everybody leaves eventually." The same words he had spoken after the 5th maid walked out now sounded different in the empty hallway. They did not sound cruel. They sounded practiced. Danielle rested her uninjured hand on her knee. "Maybe that is why you keep testing people." Noah looked at her suspiciously. "I do not test people." Orange juice. Missing keys. Mud on the floor. A chair pushed into my path. His cheeks colored. "You keep asking the same question without saying it." "What question?" Danielle's voice softened. "How bad can I be before you leave?" Noah went completely still. For several seconds, the only sound was the faint ticking of the grandfather clock downstairs. "That is stupid," he whispered. "Maybe." Danielle gave a small shrug. "But people do strange things when they are scared." "I am not scared." "I did not say you were." Noah stared at her, frustrated that she would not fight him. "Then why are you still here?" There it was. Not why had she stayed tonight. Why was she still here at all? Danielle looked toward the dark window at the end of the hallway. "Because one difficult day does not tell me everything about a person." Noah glanced at the bandage. "I hurt you. You made a bad choice that caused me to get hurt. That matters. You still have to take responsibility for it." His shoulders lowered slightly. "So you are mad." "I am disappointed." Somehow that word landed harder. Noah swallowed. Danielle continued gently. "But being disappointed in what you did is not the same as deciding you are a bad kid." His eyes became glassy, and he quickly looked away. "My dad thinks I am." A shadow moved near the far end of the corridor. Neither of them noticed Ethan standing beyond the corner, motionless. Danielle shook her head. "I cannot tell you what your father thinks. I can tell you what I see." Noah waited. "I see a boy who has gotten very good at making people leave before they get the chance to surprise him." His breathing changed. "You do not know anything about me." "Not yet." Danielle stood. "But I am still here tomorrow." Noah looked toward her door. "And the day after?" Danielle did not make a promise she could not guarantee. "Tomorrow comes first." Noah nodded slowly and turned toward his bedroom. After 3 steps, he stopped. "Danielle." "Yes." His voice became almost a whisper. "I am sorry about your hand." Then he disappeared down the hallway. Ethan remained hidden in the shadows, stunned by 4 simple words he had waited months to hear from his son. Ethan said nothing about what he had overheard in the hallway, but the next morning he canceled his first meeting and remained home. He told himself there were documents to review, calls that could be handled from his study, decisions too important to delegate. None of that explained why his office door stayed open. From behind his mahogany desk, Ethan could see part of the breakfast room, and that was where Danielle found Noah staring at a bowl of oatmeal as though it had personally offended him. "I wanted pancakes," Noah said. "Mrs. Parker said you asked for oatmeal 10 minutes ago. I changed my mind." Danielle placed a folded napkin beside him. "Then you can ask Mrs. Parker politely whether pancakes are possible." Noah pushed the bowl away. "You ask her." "No, one word. Calm. Final." Ethan looked up from his papers. In his world, people obeyed because consequences followed refusal. Danielle somehow made refusal sound like an ordinary boundary. Noah frowned. You work for us. I work here, Danielle corrected. That does not mean I speak for you when you already know how to speak for yourself. Noah glanced toward the kitchen. For a moment, Ethan expected the familiar performance. Instead, Noah climbed down from his chair and disappeared through the doorway. A minute later, Ethan heard him say, "Mrs. Parker, could I please have pancakes if it is not too much trouble?" Ethan stopped reading. Later that afternoon, another test came. Noah had been building a model airplane in the library when one wing refused to fit. Frustration tightened his face. He swept the instruction booklet onto the carpet and looked toward Danielle. Weeks earlier, that moment would have ended with pieces scattered across the room and a staff member cleaning afterward. Danielle continued dusting the bookshelf. "You dropped your instructions." "I know. Then pick them up." "I do not want to." "That is your choice." She moved to the next shelf. "But I am not picking them up for you." Noah stared at the booklet. "What if I leave it there all day?" "Then it will still be there all day." 5 minutes passed. Then Noah bent down, retrieved the booklet, and returned to the table. Ethan watched from the doorway, unseen. Something uncomfortable settled inside him. He had spent years believing Noah needed firmer control, better tutors, stricter schedules, more security, more structure. When those failed, Ethan compensated with expensive toys, private lessons, and anything money could place between his son and disappointment. Danielle offered none of that. She gave Noah something Ethan suddenly realized the boy rarely received: boundaries without fear and consequences without rejection. That evening, Ethan found Danielle replacing flowers in the foyer. "How are you doing this?" he asked. Danielle turned. "Doing what?" "Getting him to listen." She considered the question. "I am not trying to make him listen." Ethan's expression tightened. "He is 9. He needs discipline." "Yes, but discipline is not the same thing as control." Few people would have dared say that to Ethan Kong. Danielle returned a white rose to the vase. "Noah knows exactly how powerful his last name is. He also knows everyone around him is afraid of upsetting you. That gives him power a child does not know how to carry." Ethan's eyes moved toward the staircase. "And you are not afraid of upsetting me?" Danielle met his gaze. "Should I be?" The question hung between them. Ethan could have ended the conversation. Instead, he looked away first. Upstairs, Noah appeared at the railing holding his repaired model airplane. "Danielle," he called. "I fixed it." She smiled. "I knew you could." Noah smiled back before catching himself. Ethan saw it. A small, ordinary smile. He could not remember the last time his son had worn one without receiving something in return. And for the first time, Ethan began wondering whether Noah had ever been the real problem in that house. The change in Noah became impossible to miss, but Danielle understood that improvement was not the same as healing. 3 weeks after she arrived, she was changing the linens in Noah's room when she noticed a small wooden box tucked behind several books on the lowest shelf. She would have ignored it if Noah had not rushed through the doorway the moment he saw where she was standing. "Do not touch that." His voice cracked with an urgency Danielle had never heard before. She immediately stepped away. "I was not going to." Noah grabbed the box and held it against his chest. "It is mine." "Then it stays yours." Danielle returned to smoothing the comforter. Noah watched her suspiciously. Most adults asked questions when they discovered secrets. Danielle did not. That afternoon, however, Noah found her in the sunroom and placed the box on the table himself. "You can look now," he said. Danielle sat across from him as Noah lifted the lid. Inside were 5 small objects: a blue button, a recipe card, a silver hair clip, a faded ribbon, and a tiny wooden bird. Danielle recognized the pattern before Noah explained it. "Those belonged to them," he said. "The maids?" Noah nodded. "Miss Rachel lost the button. Mrs. Lewis gave me the bird. Carmen used that ribbon when she wrapped presents." Danielle looked at him carefully. "You kept something from each of them." "I did not steal them." "I did not say you did." His fingers moved over the wooden bird. "They all said they liked me at first." Danielle felt the room become heavier. "Then what happened?" Noah shrugged. But his eyes stayed on the box. "They stopped." "Why?" "Because I made them." The answer was barely audible. Danielle understood then. The spilled drinks, hidden keys, ruined breakfasts, sharp remarks. Noah had never been searching for entertainment. He had been conducting the same painful experiment again and again. "You wanted them to leave," Danielle said. Noah shook his head immediately. "No," then his face tightened. "Maybe." Danielle waited. Noah whispered, If they leave because I make them, then I already know when it is going to happen. Ethan had entered the hallway moments earlier and stopped outside the partially open sunroom door. He heard every word. Danielle leaned forward slightly. Who left first, Noah? Silence. Noah's fingers closed around the wooden bird. My mom. Danielle did not move. How old were you? 6. His voice became smaller. She said she needed time. Dad said she was going away for a while. Noah swallowed. She never came back. Outside the room, Ethan closed his eyes. He had spent 3 years protecting Noah from the details, believing silence would spare him pain. Instead, the boy had filled that silence with his own explanation. Was it because of me? Noah asked. Danielle's expression softened. I cannot tell you why your mother left. I was not there. But adults make adult decisions, Noah. A child does not carry responsibility for those decisions. Noah stared at her. Then why does everybody leave? Danielle looked at the 5 objects in the box. Maybe not everybody does. Maybe you have been so busy proving they will leave that you never gave anyone a chance to prove something different. Noah's eyes filled, but he blinked quickly and looked away. Danielle did not reach for him. She simply stayed in her chair. After a long silence, Noah pushed the wooden box toward her. You can hold it. Danielle picked it up carefully, understanding the trust hidden inside that small permission. In the hallway, Ethan remained motionless. For years, he had believed his son was trying to control everyone around him. Now he finally understood the truth. Noah had never been trying to make people leave. He had been trying to make abandonment predictable. For the next 12 days, the Kong estate felt different. Noah still tested boundaries, but now he sometimes stopped himself before Danielle had to say a word. He carried his breakfast plate to the kitchen. He apologized to Mrs. Parker after tracking dirt across the foyer. He even placed the wooden box on his nightstand instead of hiding it behind books. Ethan noticed everything. What he did not notice was the black sedan that appeared twice near the estate gates, or the unfamiliar man who asked a neighborhood delivery driver whether Danielle Brooks worked inside the Kong residence. Ethan's security chief noticed. By midnight, a thin folder rested on Ethan's desk. Someone has been asking about her, the security chief said. Ethan's face became unreadable. His world had rules, and one of the oldest was painfully simple. Anyone close to him could become vulnerable because of his reputation. Danielle had become visible. By breakfast, Ethan had made his decision. He found her arranging fresh towels in the upstairs linen closet. You are leaving today. Danielle turned slowly. Excuse me. Mrs. Parker will give you 6 months of salary. A car will take you wherever you want to go. Danielle searched his face. What happened? Nothing you need to concern yourself with. That is not an answer. Ethan's jaw tightened. It is the only answer I am giving you. Danielle understood the coldness immediately. This was not anger. It was fear disguised as authority. Does Noah know? Ethan hesitated. That was enough. You need to tell him. I will handle my son. That is exactly what you said before. The words landed quietly. Ethan looked away. Pack your things. An hour later, Danielle carried the same worn suitcase she had arrived with down the staircase. Mrs. Parker stood near the foyer with tears in her eyes. Danielle's hand rested on the front door when a small voice came from above. Where are you going? Noah stood halfway down the stairs. His face had lost all color. Danielle turned. Noah. His eyes dropped to the suitcase. You said tomorrow comes first. And I meant it every time I said it. But you are leaving. Ethan stepped from his study. Noah, come here. Noah backed away. For one terrible second, Ethan recognized the old expression. The locked jaw, the narrowed eyes, the wall rebuilding itself. Noah reached toward a decorative bowl on the side table, and everyone in the foyer froze. His fingers touched it, then stopped. Slowly, he pulled his hand back. Danielle saw the choice happen before anyone else did. Noah was angry. Noah was terrified. But this time, he did not break anything. He ran down the remaining stairs and stopped several feet from her. I will not do it again. Danielle's throat tightened. Do what? Noah struggled to speak. I will not spill things. I will not hide your keys. I will not say mean things. I will never move your chair again. His eyes filled. Just tell me what I have to fix. Danielle set down her suitcase. This is not because of anything you did. Noah shook his head desperately. That is what people say when they want to leave. Ethan took a step forward, but Danielle raised one hand gently. Noah looked directly at her now. I know why I did it. His voice trembled. I thought if I made people leave first, Then they could not decide I was not worth staying for. The foyer became silent. Danielle knelt several feet away, giving him space. Noah pressed his hands together, fighting the habit of hiding what he felt. I do not want to be that kid anymore. Danielle's eyes softened. Then do not change because you are afraid I will leave. Change because you understand you can choose who you become. Noah looked toward the suitcase again. Are you still going? Before Danielle could answer, Ethan spoke from behind them. She is. Noah turned toward his father, devastated. Ethan's voice softened. But this time, you deserve to know why. Ethan had spent years believing protection meant keeping frightening truths outside the walls of his home. Standing in the marble foyer, he finally understood that silence could frighten a child just as deeply. Noah stared at him, waiting. Ethan walked closer and lowered himself until they were nearly eye level. Danielle is leaving because someone has been asking questions about her, he said. Questions about where she works and when she comes and goes. I do not know why yet, and until I do, I want her somewhere private and secure. Noah looked confused. Because she works here? Ethan paused. Because my life can sometimes bring attention to people who do not deserve it. Danielle watched him carefully. It was the first time she had heard Ethan explain his world to Noah without hiding behind authority. So she did not choose to leave me? Noah asked. The question was so small that Ethan's expression changed. No, Noah looked at Danielle. But you are still going. Danielle nodded. For now. His eyes filled again. Can you promise you will come back? Danielle could have given him the easy answer. She could have said yes and watched relief erase the fear from his face. Instead, she remembered the wooden box and 5 little objects collected from people who had disappeared. I cannot promise exactly what tomorrow will look like, she said gently. But I can promise something else. Leaving a house does not mean someone stopped caring about you. Noah's chin trembled. My mom left. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second. There it was, the wound they had both spent years walking around. Noah turned toward his father. Was it because of me? No, Ethan answered immediately. Noah, look at me. His son hesitated, then did. Your mother leaving was an adult decision. You were 6 years old. You did not cause it. You could not have fixed it. And I should have told you that a long time ago. Noah's face crumpled, not dramatically, but with the exhausted surrender of a child who had carried the wrong explanation for 3 years. I thought if I was better, she might come back. Ethan's voice became unsteady. I know. Then I got mad because she did not. I know. Then everybody else kept leaving. Ethan reached out, but stopped before touching him. May I? Noah nodded. Ethan drew his son close, and Noah finally cried against his father's shoulder. There was no broken glass, no slammed door, no cruel remark to hide behind. Just grief that had waited too long to be named. Danielle remained beside her suitcase, her own eyes shining. After a while, Noah pulled back and wiped his face. I am sorry I hurt your hand. Danielle glanced at the faint healing line across her palm. I accept your apology. I am sorry about everything else too. Then show people you mean it. Apologies matter most when tomorrow looks different from yesterday. Noah nodded. Ethan looked at Danielle over his son's shoulder. Something in his expression had changed too. The man who had always solved fear by tightening control had finally done something harder. He had told the truth. Noah walked toward Danielle and stopped in front of her. He did not ask her to stay again. Instead, he reached into his pocket and placed the tiny wooden bird from his box into her hand. Mrs. Lewis gave me that before she left. Danielle looked down at it. Are you sure? Noah nodded. You said people can leave a house and still care. His voice trembled, but he kept going. So if you have this, maybe I can remember that. Danielle closed her fingers gently around the bird. Then I will keep it safe. Noah stepped back. For the first time in his young life, someone he cared about was walking through that front door, and he was not trying to make her leave first. Danielle returned to the Kong estate 6 weeks later on a bright Saturday morning. After Ethan's security team confirmed that the questions about her had come from a private investigator hired for an unrelated business dispute and that she was no longer being watched. Noah did not run toward her when she stepped through the front door. He stood halfway down the staircase, staring as if he needed several seconds to believe she was real. Then Danielle opened her palm. The tiny wooden bird rested there. I kept it safe. Noah smiled. I knew you would. Ethan watched from the foyer, and for once, he did not interrupt the moment. The months that followed brought changes no expensive tutor or strict schedule had ever managed. Noah still had difficult days. He still became frustrated. He still sometimes said things he regretted. But now he apologized without being ordered. He carried his own dishes to the kitchen. When Mrs. Parker asked for help, he helped. Ethan changed too. He stopped treating every problem like something that could be controlled from behind a desk. He ate breakfast with his son. He listened when Noah spoke. He even began taking Sunday mornings away from work, something his staff once considered impossible. Then, one cold November afternoon, the sound of breaking crystal rang through the dining room. Everyone froze. A new maid named Grace stood beside the table, staring down at a shattered water glass. She had been working at the estate for only 3 days, and her face immediately filled with worry. "I am so sorry, Mr. Kong," she said as Ethan entered from the hallway. Before he could answer, Noah appeared behind him. Grace looked at the boy and became even more nervous. She had already heard stories from older staff members about what Noah had once been like. Noah stared at the glass scattered across the marble. For a second, the room seemed to travel backward in time. Danielle stood near the doorway holding folded linens, and the faint scar across her palm caught the afternoon light. Noah noticed it. His expression changed. He walked toward Grace, then stopped several feet from the broken glass. "Do not touch it," he said. Grace blinked. Noah pointed toward the kitchen. "There is a broom in there. You could cut your hand if you pick it up." No mockery. No challenge. No satisfaction in someone else's fear. Just concern. Grace released the breath she had been holding. "Thank you, Noah." He nodded and went to get the broom himself. Ethan said nothing. He simply watched his son return and carefully helped Mrs. Parker clear the area while Danielle remained in the doorway. When Noah finished, he looked at Danielle's hand again. "Does your scar still hurt?" "Not anymore." Noah lowered his eyes. "I wish I had never caused it." Danielle walked closer. "I know." He looked up. "Do you forgive me?" Danielle smiled softly. "I forgave you a long time ago. But what matters is what you learned afterward." Noah glanced toward Grace, who was setting a new glass on the table. "People should not have to be scared around me." Ethan's eyes softened. "No, they should not." Noah looked at his father. "And people leaving does not always mean they stopped caring." Ethan rested a hand gently on his son's shoulder. "That is right." Danielle opened her palm once more, revealing the wooden bird she still carried in her pocket. Noah smiled when he saw it. Once, he had measured relationships by how quickly he could destroy them before they disappeared. Now he understood that trust was built differently, through patience, accountability, and the courage to care without demanding guarantees. The scar on Danielle's hand remained, but so did the lesson it carried. And in a house where fear had once spoken louder than kindness, a 9-year-old boy had finally learned that real strength was not making someone cry. It was making sure they never had a reason to fear him.